Good morning. My name is Emery Bruner. I am a student in my final year here at IU in the School of Global and International Studies. I'm majoring in International Studies and minoring in French and Arabic, and so my area of studies is North Africa and the Middle East, actually. I've studied abroad in Saumur, France during high school, and I'm planning on going to Oman over the summer through the Sultan Qaboos Cultural Center Salam program. And it is my pleasure this morning to introduce this panel, Democracy Deconsolidation, and with that, I'd like to hand it off to our wonderful Dean, Lee Feinstein.
Good morning. Emery is the treasurer of our honor society, Sigma Iota Rho. Emery, thank you very, very much for your service to the school, and congratulations. We can applaud her again. Well, good morning, and welcome to the School of Global and International Studies at Indiana University, Bloomington, and to our annual conference, which, in case you didn't notice, is America's role in the world. Since we began this conference 3 years ago, a lot has happened. And not just here in the United States, but also globally. And there are two reasons for this. First, we live in a historic time. Now, that's the kind of thing you hear at every conference. But now it's true. It really is. We live in a historic period. And the magnitude of change is as great as at any time since World War II. Take, for example, forced migration. Displaced people account for one of every 113 people on Earth, according to the UN, a level not seen since the Second World War. Or the populist wave in Europe, marked by a narrow vote in the UK to leave the European Union, the election of autocrats seeking to disestablish democracy in countries that fought hard to establish it, and a rise of intolerance and xenophobia in places that have worked over generations to overcome it. Or China's rise, Japan's resurgence, head-spinning responses to rising nuclear dangers in North Korea. You can choose your metaphor. Richard Haass of the Council on Foreign Relations uses the term global disarray to describe the current world circumstances, intensified by sweeping technological innovation and change, and by the fact that our institutions, whether they be our domestic institutions or global institutions, have not been able to keep up with the pace of change, have not been up to the job. This period of global disarray also corresponds to a period of uncertainty in the United States, and that's my second point. It's a lack of confidence and clarity about how the United States should respond to these challenges. What should America's role in the world be? Since we established this conference 3 years ago, U.S. foreign policy has snapped back and forth on major issues, a reflection of divisions in this country and of hyper-politicization on issues ranging from climate change to trade to nuclear security. For example, since our first meeting, the United States negotiated the Paris Agreement on climate change to cap and limit greenhouse gas emissions, working with other states. In 2017, the United States announced its intention to withdraw from that agreement. The United States joined with other states in East and Southeast Asia to conclude the Trans-Pacific Partnership, or TPP, and then announced its intention not to join, although that could change, with similar positions towards NAFTA and a trade and investment agreement with Europe. Since we began meeting, the United States, working with the permanent members of the UN Security Council and the EU, reached agreement with Iran to reduce economic sanctions in exchange for nuclear restraint. And the United States, as everyone in this room knows, is now considering withdrawal from that agreement as well. Now, the efficacy of these agreements is an important matter for discussion and debate. For example, does the Paris Accord have teeth? Or could the United States have gotten a better deal on Iran? Or How can trade agreements do a better job protecting working people in the United States and elsewhere? There's no monopoly on the right answer to these questions, and over the next 2 days, we'll enter into conversations to discuss the pros and cons of positions on these and other subjects. But there are a few things we do know, and I'll just start with 3. 1, the United States cannot solve these problems on its own. 2, turning away from the world, erecting barriers, concrete or metaphorical, is not a solution. And 3, how the United States chooses to respond to these challenges matters. It really does, in the United States and globally. As our Governor Holcomb said last year at this conference, globalization is a fact of life. To think that you could retreat from that would be to put ourselves in a state of denial, or certainly handicapping yourself. The world will continue to get smaller and smaller. Now, fortunately, in seeking to understand what the U.S. role in the world should be, we are in good hands over the next 2 days. And that's thanks to the co-conveners of this conference, Senator Dick Lugar and Representative Lee Hamilton. As Indiana's longest-serving members of Congress, these legislators have made and continue to make historic contributions to American foreign policy and global security, both recognized with the Presidential Medal of Freedom, and both, I am very proud to say, distinguished scholars on the faculty of the School of Global and International Studies. Senator Lugar and Representative Hamilton embody bedrock Midwestern principles that have made this country and its foreign policy better, more pragmatic, and better understood and supported by the American people. These include the principle that the United States is stronger and more prosperous when it is actively engaged in the world, that working across partisan divides produces results, and that seeking to understand other societies, especially those with whom we disagree, is a sign of strength and smarts, not to mention essential to developing effective policies. And I hope you will join us today at 4 in this hall to hear them discuss these issues. Now, for those of you making your first visit to IU, Bloomington, and SGIS, allow me to say a few words about what we aim to do here. We tell our students that to change the world, we should first seek to understand it. What we mean by that is we believe that preparation for global careers, for our students to be globally ready, requires students to combine global perspectives with regional expertise. That means our students combine language learning with conceptual understanding of global trends and institutions, and with the study of the history, culture, and politics of particular regions. And when Emory introduced herself, you could see exactly how that works in practice. In academic terms, we seek to bring area studies into conversation with international studies. Where the foreign policy process tends to fall down is in understanding the intentions of others, in understanding societal forces elsewhere. You can call it a lack of ground truth. And helping to fill that gap is a big part of what we aim to do here. Finally, this school is possible owing to the global traditions and ambitions of our state and this university, as well as our many supporters, and I thank them all. They have made possible this beautiful building, the growth of our outstanding faculty, and a surge of enrollments of talented, highly qualified, and ambitious students in our programs, like Emory. Thank you all for joining us today.